here in the county. She's actually stationed in Lincoln City today, so I hope I don't see her. The reason I'm running for county commissioners, I've been in office for about 13 months now. I've been doing really well personally. I've done a lot of things. One of my accomplishments I'm most proud of is in November, everyone heard that the helicopter was leaving. I worked on that when I was port commissioner. So what I did was I reached out to all the people that I've been working with before. Some that I've been working with before also reached out to me. I felt it was a natural fit, and so I took that upon myself to make sure that I start getting the information out. First thing I did was I called up the Coast Guard and met with them and kind of asked them what was going on. It was kind of a difficult position. They weren't very many of the same women that worked on it 10 years ago, worked on it this time. I'm the one that signed the declaration. That was one of the things that was a big deal for me. So my name's on that federal lawsuit. I sat in court for the hearing and just really enjoyed being part of that. We have not got a final result from the federal court yet. The one thing we're hoping for is that we get a final decision coming up so we can move on to other things. I was up in Salem a couple of weeks ago. Transit lodging tax passed. That was a big deal. We, as in the county and all the other counties in the state, have been trying to get that passed for 2 or 3 years now. It sailed out of the House without a problem. It was supposed to be going through the Senate committee, and there was an amendment put in at the very week before, and it wasn't a make or break thing for it, but it caused some concern. So my testimony that day was supposed to be just talk in support. It was going to get voted on and make it out of committee and make it onto the floor. There were some arguments, and it did not make it out of committee that day, that morning. So myself, another commissioner from Benton County, Association of Oregon County staff, League of Oregon City staff, and some other Chamber of Commerce people from different counties started going and knocking on doors to talk to some of the senators who had expressed some concern, tried to lay their concerns, give them some more information, check with other ones who were in supportive of it to make sure they were still in support. We spent about 5 hours doing that. And by the time we were done, we felt like we had made sure that we had enough support, and that evening it passed out of committee, and then it was passed through the Senate on a 23-6 vote, which is really good. Very, very, very good to have bipartisan support for that. We are going to have 50% of the transit lodging tax money coming back to the cities or the county, whatever entity takes those taxes. The way that those funds can be used has been expanded, allowed to invest in infrastructure, which was not done before. Lincoln City has some infrastructure projects they would like to do. Depot Bay also has a few infrastructure problems they want to address, and they will now be able to use those funds for those things. One of the arguments that I used when I was talking to people that were not in favor of it in the Capitol and other representatives, and honestly, people that supported the advertisement being 70%, if you can't drink the water that's what's so flush, that's not good advertisement either. So that was a good selling point. And then I've just had a really good time going out and meeting with city mayors, going out to different parts of the county, meeting with other people, and that's what I'm going to be continuing to do. The other thing I'm really happy about was we passed the veterans levy. That barely passed, but we passed it. We need to make sure that we support our veterans here in Lincoln County, and what that does is it takes that office off of the general fund tax roll and allows it to be supported for 5 years by a tax levy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue what I've done for the last 13 months is listen. I think that's the one thing that we need to make sure that we do as public officials is we go out and listen and get ideas and get input from all parts of the community. I'm going to continue to work as an advocate for the county. whether that's a state, local, or federal level, and look for things that need to be done instead of being asked. One of the things that I've learned is by going around and being out in different parts of the community is that there are things that haven't gotten addressed, or by listening to the mayor's things that wouldn't come across my desk if I didn't go out there and do that outreach, and just continue to work with others. So,
thank you, Walter. Is Cristen here? Yes, Cristen, would you join us, please? Just let me introduce myself. My name is Elliot Secular. I'm a freelance journalist based here in Lincoln City, and I've been very, very poor stand-in today for David Gallagher, who was scheduled to do this and couldn't make it for scheduling reasons. So I'll just be asking some questions of both Cristen and Walter, and then if there's questions. If any of you have questions, I know you've all been invited to put them in the bowl or whatever, we'll get to those afterwards. I'm going to try to tweet out by 5 o'clock so we can make the questions brief. Cristen Dunn is running for position 2, right? Yes, that's right. So you'll be filling in on for Claire's term, is that correct?
The remaining 2 years of her term.
And Walter Chuck is the incumbent. I think everyone here knows actually is the incumbent and running for election.
Yep.
So briefly, I'm just going to ask Walter, because this is a question that Walter can best answer. Is like, please, for all of us. Yes. Okay, for sure. Okay, Cristen, do you want to say this?
Sure. Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for being late. So yeah, just see a few familiar faces here and some new faces, but my name is Cristen Dunn. I am running for position 2 on the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. For 22 years, Lincoln County has been my home, my community, and the place where I've built my career in public service. And although I've lived here for 22 years, my connection to this place goes back well beyond that. I've been coming to Lincoln County, this section of the Oregon coast, since the late 1970s when I was a small child. I grew up in a military family. My father was in the Air Force, so I lived in a number of places as a kid growing up. But my grandparents and all my aunts and uncles and cousins lived here in Oregon. And when we would come on family visits in the summertime, we would usually come here to the Central Oregon coast, usually to my grandparents' little vacation trailer just down the road in Lincoln Beach. So Lincoln County is where I caught my first fish. I dug my first clam. I celebrated my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary here. And my parents used to take me to the Hatfield Marine Science Center, the visitor center, helping stoke my interest in marine science. And I would geek out every time I was there because, oh my gosh, like real marine scientists live and work here. And I went to the Oregon Coast Aquarium the first year it opened in 1992, which is the same year I graduated from high school and went off to college to study marine biology at UC Santa Cruz. I later then went up to Seattle to the University of Washington to study ocean science, policy, and management. So I really wanted to focus on the human side of ocean and coastal issues. And then I was thrilled in 2004 when I was offered a job with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife in Newport, bringing me back to this very special place. I love this place. I love this community, and I have a love and passion and commitment to public service. So I'm running to focus on bringing stability, service, and stewardship to Lincoln County government. I have a vision of Lincoln County being a place where all our community members can live, work, and thrive. I bring lots of experience in leading statewide government programs and managing complex government budgets. I have extensive experience in practical and creative problem solving to solve issues that affect people. And I have a proven record of bringing people, coastal communities together from very different interests and very different perspectives to come work through contentious issues and make hard decisions. I did that for many, many years at my work at the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I can bring those skills and experiences here to work at Lincoln County. My 19 years of combined experience at the Oregon Department of Fish and life and no fisheries demonstrates my commitment to the stewardship and care of our natural resources, for supporting commercial fisheries and outdoor recreation, and to ensuring that the public has access to these resources and activities now and for future generations. My 4 years of serving on the Lincoln County Budget Committee demonstrates my commitment to fiscal responsibility and caring for your taxpayer dollars to be used in wise and constructive ways. And my volunteering on the Samaritan House Family Shelter Board demonstrates my commitment to working on some of the issues that are most pressing in our community, including housing insecurity and affordability, supporting working families, especially the issue of childcare, supporting tools and resources and programs that help move people and families from crisis to stability, and supporting people in recovery. So again, I have a demonstrated experience of working on a wide variety of issues, often very contentious issues. And I do that with focusing on people, focusing on solutions, and focusing on outcomes. And I'm excited to bring those skill sets here to Lincoln County and to serve you all. So thank you.
Thanks, Cristen. First question to ask, and I'm going to address this to you, Walter, since you're best equipped to answer, is it for the rest of us who are not as perhaps as familiar with county government, define for us what is the role of the county commissioner?
You know, everyone will say that it's not what they expected, and I would say that's true. I mean, I've come across some things that I haven't expected, but there are some things, a lot of other things that I did expect. The one thing that you need to understand is that your power lies as a group of three. One commissioner does not have sole authority over anything, so you do need to be able to work with the other commissioners. The one thing that you also need to realize is that you have a lot of authority, but that authority lies in what the people give you by voting for you, and also by working together with the other commissioners. One thing that I get asked is, Commissioner Chuck, is there something you can do about the schools? And I said, no, there is not. I said, because the one thing that we do not have is we do not have the ability to tell another elected official what they can and cannot do. So you need to understand that the one thing that you have to do is that makes you have to work with these people, understand their jobs, and let them understand that you are willing to work with them and help solve their issues. What we do have is the power of our title and the power of being very well compensated. And that gives us the time to do what a city council member, a port commissioner, or a school district person doesn't have. And that is the time to go out and lobby for them and for what they need to have done. So what you do is you can collaborate with them. And the other thing you can do is you can use that title as commissioners to convene people. I did that with Lincoln Sanitary District in Leadington Beach and with Depot Bay. They had an infrastructure problem, and I got them together to see if they could work it out. In the end, they didn't work it out. But what I did was I got them to get the right people to the table. They were able to at least see the common problem and try and work on it. I was able to bring state agencies there, DEQ, Regional Solutions in the governor's office, and then also USDA federal funding to give them options. And by doing that, I learned that it's called a one-stop shop. And so there's a water district down in southern part of the county that they went through that, and just being able to know what is available and bringing people together and helping solve people's problems. We're responsible for our budget, and that's really a big deal. It's your tax money. It's everybody's tax money. The other thing that we also have the responsibility of doing is we have 2 employees, and that is it. We have the county council, we have the county administrator. What we do is I, as a commissioner, and the other commissioners work with department heads, just get updates and things from them. But we do not have authority over daily employees. And that's one thing we need to understand. The only time that we do have dealings with them, and I would say not just talking to them in the halls, is where we would get involved with them is if they came to myself or Commissioner Miller, if it was an HR issue where there was a hostile work environment, sexual harassment, things like that. That is where we are legally bound to do that. And I have had that people come up and talk to me about that. I have had to talk to HR on behalf of some employees, and I take that very seriously, because not only do we have to make sure that the county provides services and things for people, but also need to make sure that the people that work for the county feel like they're supported, and if they have issues that they can come to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a question that is posed, whatever, and I'd like to amend it a little bit, if I may, just so. The question is, as both of you is so what would your priorities be? What your second term, or Cristen in your first term? And the question the way I want to rephrase it is there a defining goal or issue that you would want to characterize your tenure as a commissioner? Is there one thing or that is a passion project for you, perhaps, or something that you would like to be remembered in your role as commissioner? And Cristen, why don't I start with you? Since you
Okay. Well, I'm committed and looking to bring stability, service, and stewardship to Lincoln County government. So I'm committed to stability. So that includes bringing steady, competent leadership that restores trust, supports our county staff, and ensures essential services run reliably. I'm committed to service. I bring a deep commitment to public service and to ensuring county programs deliver the responsive, high-quality support to the people who rely on them. And I'm dedicated to stewardship. So I'll bring responsible care for your taxpayer dollars, our public infrastructure, and our natural resources. The idea is to make practical decisions that strengthen Lincoln County for the long term. And I've identified there are 6 local priorities I'm ready to focus on as county commissioner. So the first is access to health and mental health services, ensuring our county's health and mental health services remain strong, stable, and accessible for every community member. Second priority I'm ready to focus on is childcare and support for working families, expanding access to affordable, high-quality childcare so families can thrive, employers can retain staff, or sometimes in the case even hire staff. I had issues hiring staff because of childcare issues, and that our local economy can grow. The third local priority is housing affordability and homelessness solutions. So advancing affordable housing options, transitional shelter, and supportive services that help residents move towards long-term stability. The fourth is economic development and a skilled local workforce, growing a resilient and diversified economy with living wage jobs, support for local businesses, and training pathways that prepare residents for the jobs of today and in the future. The fifth is infrastructure and future-ready planning. So helping prioritize investing in county roads, public facilities, and infrastructure that supports public safety and health, strengthens our economy, and prepares us for the future conditions we must be prepared for. And my sixth is stewardship of natural resources and public access. So caring for coastal and natural resources, supporting commercial fishing and outdoor recreation, and ensuring the public has access for future generations. And I think of all these 6, which I am very interested in working on all these, but I think if there was a legacy project, it's the childcare. And right now the biggest gap is from birth to 2 years old. There's still a large gap in other, but that's the most. And so that is something I'm very, very interested in focusing attention on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Walter, do you want to chime in on it?
Sure. If there was one thing that I want to really focus on is financial stability of the county. One thing that I looked at when I first got into office was the county budget has almost doubled over the last 3 to 4 years. And some of that is due to some federal money that came in. We have a very large health and human services department. That's about $125 million of our budget. And that is more than double what we take in general fund money. So a lot of those services, due to HR1, the federal bill that's going to cut Medicaid funding in 2028, we're going to have to look really hard at how we provide services, and a lot of those are health services to the citizens of Lincoln County. The state has a lot of mandated services that they have on us too. They don't have a lot of money, and as I've seen over the last 15 years, that the state wants to pay less and less for those services that they mandate the county to provide. So we're going to have to come up with creative solutions on those. Other thing that we need to make sure of as county commissioners is that we go to Salem, we advocate that any legislation that gets passed is funded, especially if it's going to be making services incumbent on us to provide. Working with our federal representatives to make sure that we continue as much of that federal funding as possible, whether that's through Medicaid, Medicare, reimbursement for roads and schools, such as the Secure Rural School funds, and also to make sure that those monies come to us, we spend them wisely. There are going to, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be some hard budget decisions that are getting made with some of the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. Jane Romero, she was the department head for HHS. She left about 9 months ago, and we had lunch, and before she left, I wanted to say goodbye. She and I became to have some really good conversation. She said, "I was really looking forward to jousting with you in the next couple of years." She said, because HHS is going to be coming to the county commissioners to ask for general fund money more than likely to fund some of these health and human services projects, and that we are supposed to provide that we're not going to get funded for. And she said there's going to have to be some tough decisions to get made, and I'm willing to do that, willing to look for that, and I'm looking forward to having those discussions and making sure that we provide services for the people of the counties with little funds that we are going to have coming in. So that was what I would like to be known for, is that we worked together to come to a conclusion and come to a solution that we need to provide services, but we also need to make sure that, and my take on the budget is I try and spend the money like it's my own.
So it's a question for both of you, I guess, is how would you characterize your leadership style?
Leadership style. Let's see. I've got some notes here somewhere, I'm sure.
Question 3.
So I would say my leadership style is, again, I focus on people, solutions, and outcomes. I'm also very collaborative. I love working, especially with experts. So in this instance, we'll be working with department heads and the elected officers who are the experts in the fields of the departments they are managing, to get information, bring that information together, and help find creative ways to address issues, solve problems. I'm I'm usually not the expert in the room, but I'm very good at gathering all sorts of information, whether it's data-driven, people's personal experiences, or qualitative information. And I can see patterns and opportunities that sometimes when you are the mired expert in a thing, you just don't have the capacity or ability to see. So working collaboratively, helping come up with better ways of doing things, working smarter, not harder, across the county. I'm also very much a strategic thinker. And again, I come from a science background traditionally. So I'm very into strategy. And so I like to lead with a clear direction. I like having, this is where we're trying to get, and we know the major milestones we need to get there, and you as the experts know how best to get us to reach each of these milestones. We're going to need to make adjustments on the way. Never goes as planned, never. But I'm there to help you problem solve. I'm also, this is probably a sad truth about myself, I'm really, really good at navigating bureaucracy. It's like, how boring is that? But it's really important. At my time at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, where I was having to manage and work across multiple state agencies and across multiple programs, even within my agency, having to find ways, either to remove or get around bureaucratic and administrative barriers that were preventing us from getting the work done. You still got to stay within the legal boundaries, but there's creative ways of getting things done. And again, my experts don't necessarily have the time and capacity to do that. I can do that for you. I can get those out of the way. I can see the clear path forward. I'm great at forming partnerships across different agencies, with industry, with nonprofit community organizations, because the reality is we can't do it alone. We need to leverage each other's resources, leverage each other's experiences. So removing or helping navigate around barriers, building partnerships. And I think my strengths are, I bring perspective, I bring sound judgment, I bring creative problem solving, and I like to bring humor to my leadership and to the people I work with.
Thank you, Cristen. Walter, do you want to take a shot?
Sure. Number one, thoughtful. And what I mean by that is that when I prepare for my meetings, I make sure that I read my packet. I make sure if I have any questions, I reach out to the people that are going to be coming to me or the departments that are going to be presenting. So I have my questions answered, so I know what the subjects are. Another thing about thoughtful is that I was working for the county for the last 13 months, and then as a port commissioner, working with state agencies. One of the things that you realize is that a lot of the times these policy decisions that we're working on coming from the state and from the other parts of state agencies, a lot of these policy decisions are made quickly. Policy decisions made quickly are not are often fraught with collateral damage and unintended consequences. So that's why when I work on things, I like to think about it. Steady. I make sure that I just keep an even keel. Make sure that my decisions are based on what I have been able to find out as far as information, doing outreach, and past experience. That's one of the things that I bring to the table, is I've been doing things as a public official for over 15 years now, and I've seen a lot of things happen. I've sat on a lot of advisory boards and things like that, and seen how good decisions are made, how bad decisions are made, and also that it takes time to work collaboratively, and sometimes some of the best decisions take the longest, but the reason they take the longest is because they've had the best amount of input. Lead by example. Just try and conduct myself as I want to see others conduct themselves, and be consistent. And when I say that, being consistent, is that my decisions are based on what's best for the county. One of the things I tell people is that I will never vote or support everything you think should be done, but what you can do is you can depend that I will be making my decisions based on what's best for the most of the people in the county, and that's how I see myself as a leader.
Thank you. So here's a question, Jerry. What things will you do as commissioner? What things can be done to support the underserved people? And Crystal, let me start.
So this does tie directly to two of my core commitments, service and stability. So to me, service means ensuring that the county programs meet people where they're at. And stability means making sure those essential services are reliable, adequately funded, and able to support people through difficult times. So our county government provides vital public health, primary care, mental health, and disability services. These programs are important for many of our underserved residents. Many are required, as Walter said, by the state for us to provide. So with major funding changes coming, starting in 2027 from the state and federal funding sources, the people who feel those impacts first are the people who already face the biggest barriers, or are the people who are right on the edge. Right now they're stable, but minus their organ health plan, Medicaid, this is going to tip them over into crisis mode. So as county commissioner, I can't rewrite state or federal law, but I can be a strong advocate. And I'll work closely with the Association of Oregon Counties, who represent county interests in state, federal, and regional forums. I'll work with our state legislators, our federal delegation, and probably more importantly, the staff of those legislators and representatives, and also work with the governor's office to push for stable, predictable funding. I'll work on strengthening our relationships with state agencies. Some of these state agencies are the ones that write the contracts that then give the money to the county to perform these required services. These contracts have to be negotiated every 2 years, and it seems from the county's perspective, those are getting whittled away, right? The state agencies are being squeezed, which means the counties are being squeezed. County commissioners, county council, the Association of Oregon Counties are there to help negotiate strong contracts to make sure Lincoln County is getting the resources from the state it needs to carry out these programs and services. And also working with regional partners, so we're not reacting to change, we're planning for it. Keeping these services strong and stable is one of the most important things we can do to support our underserved residents. Another major area is childcare and support for working families. Affordable, reliable childcare is a challenge for many families in Lincoln County, especially single parents, shift workers, and low-income households. And when families can't find childcare, they can't stay employed, and that inability ripples through the entire community. So I will work with community partners, providers, and local businesses to expand access to high-quality childcare across Lincoln County. And my third one is housing is another fundamental issue. Safe and stable housing is a basic need, and without it, everything else becomes harder. So I'll continue to support the county's resource center and homeless shelter. I'll focus on practical and collaborative solutions that increase affordable housing options and provide transitional and supportive services to help residents move from crisis to stability. And this is where the role of a commissioner really matters. Bringing cities, nonprofits, developers, and state partners together so we're aligned and advocating for the resources that match the scale of our housing challenges. So across all these areas, my approach is grounded in what I've done throughout my career, which is building partnerships, strengthening systems, and making sure programs work for the people who rely on them. So supporting underserved people isn't a separate issue. It's woven into everything the county does. When we strengthen access to healthcare, to childcare and housing, we strengthen the entire community. And that's the kind of stability, service, and stewardship I'm committed to bringing to Lincoln County.
Thank you.
So, as a commissioner, I will continue to support all of our programs that reach out to these underserved. And what I mean by continue to support is I will, as I said before, work with our federal and state legislators to make sure that that funding keeps coming, but also reach out to continue our public and private partnerships to build housing, with whether that's with Houses for Humanity, and there are some faith-based groups that provide these services. County has property, working with them to build affordable housing on these parts. Considering fund reallocations through our budget, like I said before, through whether that's HHS programs or behavioral health. Private entities, one of the things that I found is that the private funding is drying up too. The competition for these funds is getting really, really, really hard. The Ford Foundation, we reached out to them. They are focusing a lot on children, and so we might be reaching back out to them to see if there's availability for working with our children. As Cristen said, economic development is very important. One of the things, if people don't have good paying jobs, they can't afford to live here. Unfortunately, we do have a high cost of living here, and by having good paying jobs, it eases a little bit of that burden. Superintendent of the schools was at the economic development conference the other day. They're facing shortfalls too, and making sure that I can work with the school district, whether that's through legislation coming up or finding different parts of different funding mechanisms to make sure that our schools can still provide for our kids. HHS also provides the school-based health centers because a lot of the children going there, they might not have access to health care. So we need to make sure that that stays. It's a big issue, and one of the things we just need to keep our eyes open, and our ears really tuned in to see how we can do that. It's going to be a moving target for the next few years, and we need to make sure that we take care of the least people with the least in our community, and make sure that we can make them feel like they're welcome here, and make them be successful, and also have a way to get a foot up. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next question is actually just two questions that are sort of together, I think, and so I'll ask them as a two-part question, and some of this has already been addressed, but how do you balance required services with budget? How would you balance required services with budget constraints, and how will the county commission address the loss of federal and state funding for county services? We've touched upon that a little bit, but perhaps you want to elaborate some more. Kristen, do you want to?
I'm gonna let Walter go
Okay.
So one of the things that I got when I first started was this little sheet here. This is mandated county services, and we have to provide all these through ORS, and that's whether that's funded through general fund, federal, state, or other monies. So we will need to be looking at what those are and how we can pay for them. Looking at what mandated services are versus non-mandated. That's where those tough decisions are going to have to come into place. We're also going to have to make sure that we have a better idea on what the funding outlook is coming in. Like I said, we can rely on our general fund. That's been about $55 million the last few years. So that's what we get from taxes, rates, and fees. And that's what we can look at coming in. The rest of it is we're going to have to go and make sure that we have to go out and fight for it. Look for other sources, like I said before, whether that's the private sector, partnering with NGOs and see if we can get some of those services done. You know, I've lived here long enough. 2008, the county they had a 30% budget cut. We had to let go of a lot of people. The county had to let go a lot of people. I think they had a 30% reduction in employees. I talked to former County Commissioner Terry Thompson. He said there are still former county employees that are still upset with what they did. And so I'm not saying that's going to happen, but when those decisions have to get made, we have to make them with compassion and look for what's best in the interest of the county. Going forward, I've talked with other county commissioners throughout the state. We were very fortunate last year. We did not have to do any layoffs. We did not have to do anything. We were able to balance our budget with keeping everybody in place. I have a friend, one of my friend that's county commissioner down there in Hughes Bay. They had to cut hours for some of their employees, 32 hours a week. And that was something they had to do to balance their budget. So reduction in staff, I don't know. Hours, days of service, not fill positions. I mean, those are all options that we're going to have to look at. Looking at departments that might have kind of overlapping duties, combine those. You know, I'm putting everything on the table. We have to come up with solutions and just continue our partnerships with the cities and private sector to make sure that if there's any time we can share services, we should be able to do that. So, like I said, we have to make sure that we're looking at all options.
Thank you.
I agree with everything that Walter has said, and he's been knee deep in it for sure. Maybe just a few other things, you know, I mean, so the department heads and the elected officers that are managing their offices, they are the experts and they know the resources that they need. But it is that what are the mandated services, what are still high priority in the county but aren't mandated, and then the diversity of where the funding comes from, because you can't move all pots of money around. There are rules on what this pot of money can be spent on versus that. And so maybe on the outside, it looks like you can easily shift money around, but that's often not the case. So that's an added challenge. But as county commissioners and as the board as a whole, as Walter was saying, it's looking at the health of the county overall and the financial stability of the county overall. The creative ways of trying to make things more efficient. Where can we combine things? Where we can look to have partners provide the services, but maybe do it either better quality, and for less money. And then when there is, if and when, which there probably will be, some hard decisions and some cuts, whether it's funding, staff, or whatever it is, it's going to be very important for the county to be communicating what cuts were made and why, so that people understand the situation. Sometimes that is not very clear when you're a resident of why certain services are no longer available. But it's also providing customer service and care. If you can't get this here, here's maybe some other options. I know it's not ideal, maybe it's not going to meet your complete needs, but again, that service part of the county, how can we still help people even if maybe the service or the program is no longer available? So, and then as far as the state and federal funding, as Walter says, it's really important for county commissioners to be advocating on behalf of the county in the state legislature, to the governor's office, to our congressional delegates and their staff about the money is so vital to come to the state and to the counties, working with partners that will help us advocate, such as, again, the Association of Oregon Counties, which are more powerful. They're more powerful together as the 36 counties going and talking to the legislature about issues versus just as a single commissioner. Yeah, and I'm a good grant writer. Again, I'm great at building public-private partnerships, so those are skills I can bring. It's not going to be easy, and I'm having flashbacks to 2008 when I worked at the state and we were dealing with major layoffs and furloughs, and yeah, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So another two-part question, and this is the county has been roiled by the prospect of an ICE detention facility being built here, and we're getting mixed signals now. Most recently, it's lawsuits and the claims that they're not doing it. But what is your position on potential ICE facility, and also what can county commissioners do to help protect our undocumented neighbors? Do you want to start?
Sure. So there's two different things. I mean, there's the ICE facility. So that was another eye opener for me in November. I mean, so number one, I don't think we need an ICE facility here. So I will just come out and say that right now. We were surprised. And when I mean we were surprised, I mean the county officials were surprised, the police departments were surprised, sheriff's departments were surprised, cities were surprised. Everybody was surprised by this because it just came out of, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, but just people started hearing things. And what I was really proud of was how the community came forward. We were getting a lot of information from different businesses and things that were going on. I worked really closely with the city, the mayor, the city manager, and trying to get our heads wrapped around everything. And what it was, the decisions were to make sure that we listened to everything, gathered this information, but also did not get involved in speculation and passing on rumors. And I think the city did a really good job. They took the lead on that. We had weekly calls with Office of Emergency Management and all those things, and kind of what are you hearing on the ground? I had local businesses, call me and tell me what was going on, and and the one thing that they were concerned about was that they didn't want to be seen as favoring it or having any say in it. But the other thing that came out was that employees were hearing about it, and they told us in confidentiality that, hey, this is kind of what we saw coming in, and so we tried to make sure that we put the information out, but we didn't put people in people's jobs in danger. And that was a big concern. And the other thing, what could we do as a county? The place where they were looking at, it was going to turn out was relatively little, because that was in city property that would have had to do with city permits. The thing that we would have been involved in is if it was pumping sewage, 2,500 gallons or less than 2,500 gallons, we would have had a say in that. We just have to make sure that what we can do, we do. The city at that time, if it's on county property, that we would have more of a say in it. They would have to go to the planning department. They would have to file for permits and things like that. Our HHS people have made sure that people coming into the health facilities, they have some know your rights cards and things like that. Make sure that the people that know their rights. Other than that, I don't think. But I said it when I was being interviewed by one of the local stations and from Portland is, it would do a lot of damage here. Just the perception of having it here and, what it would do to the community. My wife and I lived in Malheur Refuge. We saw what happened when that takeover did. We saw friends that lived there and their families got torn apart by that. And so that's what happens when you have a very divisive issue come to a small town. It never leaves. And so I do not want to see that what happened there happen here.
So I am 100% opposed to an ICE detention facility in our community. I think the majority of people in Lincoln County believe in transparent government, believe in honoring people's civil and human rights, and believe in following legal due process. And I don't think the Department of Homeland Security or ICE has demonstrated any of that in this situation here locally and some of their operations elsewhere. Just to add maybe what some other things as county commissioner, I or the commissioners could do in addition to what Walter mentioned is, again, using our relationships and advocating. So working with the Oregon Attorney General, who has been pushing back and filing lawsuits on this issue. I do have a working relationship with his office, working with, again, our US delegates, working with Representative Gomberg and working with the city of Newport. Again, a concerted effort, understanding what everyone is hearing. The other issue that's somewhat tied to this is also the Coast Guard helicopter. And as a surfer and someone who's worked with the fishing community for many, many years, and we rely on tourism, and a lot of rescues happen from tourists being swept off of rocks, is to make sure that the Coast Guard helicopter also stays here in Newport.
Thank you, Kristen. So this is a specific issue. Do you support the short-term rental license program? Would you make changes? And I'd like to add to that, how do you think short-term rentals impact affordable housing issues here in Lincoln County? Walter, do you want to start with that?
Sure. The county has a policy and I support that. I think that we put the necessary levels in there to make sure that we did not have too much housing get turned over into short-term rentals. I also believe that, if you own your house, you should be able to do with it what you want. But we also have to make sure that we provide for the county people to have housing. I don't see any changes necessary to be made, honestly. I was talking with the mayor of Yachats, and they're going to have some licenses open up soon. So it's one of those things where it's going to be based on the economy. We do get the transit lodging tax, so we are thankful for that. But I think there needs to be a balance, and I think we've hit that as far as the county. Whether we need, we've hit that balance with our current rules.
Thank you, Walter. Kristen?
Yeah, so in general, I do support the short-term rental policies that have been put in place. The policies were put in place to try to address a few issues, and that's that we have a shortage of long-term rental stock in our community. And so short-term rentals then further reduces that stock of long-term rental opportunities. Neighbors had legitimate concerns about noise and parking in their neighborhoods. Also concerns about maybe too many people staying on a property and maybe their septics actually couldn't handle the number of people, right? So legitimate concerns. But we are a tourist-based economy, and short-term rental options do attract people to come stay the night in our community, spend their money. Is also a source of revenue from the transient lodging taxes and under the current structure because there's a fee. If you own a short-term rental, there is a fee. So that's, you know, some additional funding coming potentially to the county. So overall, I think they struck a nice balance. I think like any good policy, it should be periodically evaluated. I don't think it needs to be done anytime soon. But again, have we struck the right balance of the number of permits allowed in different zones? What about the fee structure? This could be another source of revenue, and there's things to like look at periodically with lots of public input. But overall, I do support the current short-term rental. Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. So past commissioners of Claire and Katie Jacobson were very helpful in helping to launch the homeless shelter here in Newport. And I'm wondering what role you believe county commissioners should be playing in supporting that. And in addition, what role the county commission should be taking in supporting the unhoused populations here, which are extraordinarily large here in Lincoln County. Kristen, you want to just start?
Sure. So again, I do support the resource and homeless shelter that the county has helped implement. And so as county commissioner, I think it's important to, again, advocate and make sure it is properly funded. And that may be coming up with creative new ways of helping fund it. Making sure staff and volunteers are supported. Making sure that the places themselves are good neighbors to their neighbors. Sometimes I hear things that maybe there are some concerns from local business owners that are in close proximity. So just helping ensure these places remain good neighbors in the neighborhoods, and then ensuring that we continue to provide quality service with dignity. So again, I think it's a lot of advocating, helping find funding for stability, supporting, just being a liaison between the neighborhood and county staff who are running. So I think those are what I see as the main ways I can continue to support the shelter and resource center.
Make sure it's funded, honestly, and I think currently it's about $550,000 a year, $600,000 a year. A lot of that is done with the support of the cities, and so the unhoused situation, it's not just a county problem, it's a city problem, it's a national problem, it's a state problem. I don't think the county can solve it by themselves, but that means we need to make sure that we are reaching out and the funding stays stable to address our unhoused issues, but then also seek out other ways to help them out, whether that's at the CSRC, the Community Services Resource Center. They do have access to healthcare. I think a lot of the issues is making sure that they're able to get access to some type of healthcare. They currently have some healthcare coming there, and also to be able to steer them to where they can get either behavioral health services. So there's a lot of mental health problems with the unhoused, and make sure that they can at least direct them to the services that they might need. So it's a collaborative approach. I mean, it's something that we all need to do as citizens of Lincoln County, but also as citizens of the state of the country, to make sure that we all work together to address it. And no one entity is going to be able to solve it by themselves. And so we're going to have to work together on it.
Thank you. One of the terms that's been thrown around a lot in the lead up to this election is transparency. And we've heard that issue raised on both sides in some months. What does transparency look like at the county commission level? And is there a transparency issue? And if so, how can it be addressed? Kristen, I don't know if you can chime in on this, but
sure.
How would you maintain a transparency in your dealings with the county and the commission?
Sure. Whether or not there is a real or perceived transparency issue, I think public trust has been broken. Whether it's transparency is or isn't happening, public trust has been broken. And this is, again, I think a huge issue. I, again, have worked, especially at my time at Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, on extremely controversial issues where community members had to come together through tough public processes. And a huge part of that was transparency and building trust, and that takes time. So I've been thinking a lot about this idea of transparency and really bringing trust and stability back to county government. And so, again, I think we need to start with restoring public trust and rebuilding some of our communication channels. So county government works best when people feel heard, when processes are predictable, and when commissioners show up with transparency, steadiness, and respect. So my approach is practical, talking about improving the processes, some of these public processes, how people engage with commissioners, engage with the Board of Commissioners, and create more opportunities for real dialogue. So again, public trust has been broken, and so I think I would like to discuss with the Board of Commissioners, whoever I am serving on the board with, about ways we might be able to strengthen the formal public process, right? There's many avenues, but the formal public process is the Board of Commissioners meetings. So ideas that I would like to discuss with other commissioners is always having general public comment at every single meeting and at a predictable time. So maybe up front in the agenda, or it's always a set time. All other business stops when it's time for general public comment. So people don't wait for hours. I've been hearing from folks who are very frustrated, and that there's consistent time limits that are fairly and consistently enforced, right? So always time for public comment, consistency, and respect. Also having public comment after for every decision item on the agenda. So again, there's the general public comment period, and then there's public comment for anything that needs a decision. This is how the Fish and Wildlife Commission does it. It works very well. It can make for very long meetings, but that's worth the price, I think, of having public trust which helps bring people together to make hard decisions. There might be ways to simplify signups for public comment and make written comment a bit easier to submit. I've been hearing some people struggling with that recently. And to make sure people's home addresses and phone numbers are protected. I think there's been some concerns about that. I also think there might be a way that we can acknowledge legal constraints openly as a Board of Commissioners. So Oregon public meeting laws limit when commissioners can talk with each other. So two commissioners together, if they start talking about something that could potentially have a decision be made, can create a quorum. And therefore, you might be out of compliance with public meeting law. So commissioners also cannot publicly discuss staff performance, disciplinary actions, or ongoing or potential litigation. So, but just because you can't say that doesn't mean you need to remain silent. So sometimes you need to just have a statement of why we're not addressing as the board. And the idea is not to go into detail, but it's something like here's what I can say statement, or just a general disclaimer of, we can't comment at this time because this topic relates to either, list all of them because you don't want to maybe narrow down what the issue is to stay, but this is transparency within the law, which is the only kind that's actually possible. So that's for the very formal public process. But I think some communication channels are broken currently. And so I think creating more informal or less formal opportunities for dialogue, just more like the regular community conversations, listening sessions, and office hours that county commissioners are already doing, but maybe we need to start amplifying that. Topic-specific roundtables, and opportunities for back and forth dialogue that formal meetings don't allow. Bringing county government to the people. So maybe, I don't know if this is possible, but holding some Board of Commissioners meetings or work sessions in different communities across the county. So partnering with libraries, community centers, the tribe and local governments to host rotating sessions, maybe even if it's just a couple times a year. I think improving communication and coordination inside a county government. I've also been hearing concerns that it feels like there's a lot of staff shortages and things are not going like they used to because of staff shortages. But regular, consistent meetings between commissioners and across county leadership with department heads and elected officers and key program leads. Again, you have to avoid the quorum situation, but there are ways that the commissioners can be rotating and having very regular, consistent meetings across leadership with county departments. So just that consistency, the consistency. So staff feel like they actually have access and that commissioners are listening, hearing, understanding what their concerns and issues are. And then the last part I want to bring up is filling 2 critical leadership vacancies within the county. These hires are essential to restoring stability and trust, and that's the county administrator that provides day-to-day leadership and coordination across departments, supports the board of commissioners and general county business, can be a really important position to help the county navigate these lean financial times and plan for the future when maybe funding does start becoming available. Again, we've got a plan in place. That position can really help the county be prepared. And will also reduce the burden on county council and create some differentiation because right now those duties are falling on county council. And we need to create a little bit more of a buffer there and differentiation so council can focus on legal advice to the county. County administrator can help more with the board of commission day-to-day or the business operations and decisions that need to be made by the commissioners. And the second one, I think, is the Health and Human Services Director. Again, I think that position's been vacant for about 10 months. Again, as Walter has mentioned, we have some very, very serious funding situations coming up. We need someone in that role. We need to ensure continuity of essential services for vulnerable residents, and having a director provide stability for county staff and programs during a period of uncertainty. So stability is something you build through consistent actions, clear communication, and respect for the public, and that's the approach I'll bring to the Board of Commissioners.
Cristen brought up a lot of things I was going to bring up, but the one thing I would really like to focus on is the transparency aspect. Everybody has their own version of it, and I try and conduct myself in a transparent manner, but one of those things that I cannot satisfy everybody's idea of what transparency is. One thing that I have done, it's what I see as transparency is financial transparency. I met with the financial officer a few months ago and said, what can we do to get our ideas out or get the information out better? If you look at the past 2 or 3 meeting packets, for the first time, our accounts paid is everything, the monthly bills, everything we paid is now part of our packet. Okay, I consider that transparency. This month, the last packet has everybody's purchasing card information in it, so you can see what the employees spent county's money on. The county financials, when you go back and look at that, it's also broken out into funds. General fund is 101. So that's a lot of that is general fund money. All those other ones, as Cristen has said before, the other departments, they do have different funds. Those funds have strings attached. So you'll see some charges that you might not understand, but those are because it's grant funded or it's from other types of money. As far as our public meetings, unfortunately, I just got an email that we're going to, because of what happened at the last meeting, we're going to go virtual for a little while now. And the transparency thing about that is that I have been approached by members of the public, and I've been told that they don't feel safe at these meetings. That's one of these one part is that's not transparent either. People they don't feel safe to come to these meetings. They don't like the manner in which some of the people behave, and they're discouraged from coming there. That's not transparent either. So we need to make sure that people come to these meetings they feel welcome to not just say their piece, but also feel welcome that they're not going to be heckled or badgered or bullied. And so that, unfortunately, that happened. The other thing about the meeting is meetings coming up, I was approached by numerous people that work for the county, and they don't feel safe coming to these meetings. And that's what I said before, is my responsibility is to the people who work in that building. They need to be able to conduct their business and come do their jobs in a safe manner. And if they don't feel that way, that's unfortunate, but that's how we're going to have to do things going forward. And as we need to do a better job of getting the word out. But unfortunately, there are some other things that we can't talk about, whether it's labor negotiations and things like that. And yes, we can do a better job of making sure that we let know. It's not that we don't want to say something about it. It's some things that we can't, or it's an ongoing process, and it hasn't come to an end. So that's.
Thank you. So we have a submitted question. So, do you plan to forge your own path as county commissioner, or will you follow the example of previous commissioners? And is there any previous commissioner that you admire?
I think a combination of all. I mean, as Walter pointed out, the Board of Commissioners is you are making decisions with your two other partners on the board. So it is a team effort, a collaboration, and we're not always going to agree on decisions that we make together. But the idea is we can, no matter what, we know we can work together to make hard decisions for the best interest of the county. My initial interactions, I've been to a lot of county commission meetings in my day, all up and down the Oregon coast, but a lot in Lincoln County. And so I hark back to the Doug Hunt, Terry Thompson, and Claire days. I thought they complemented each. I thought they had strengths and certain interests that really complemented each other. Again, there's what the Board of Commissioners does as a group, but then there's what the individual commissioners do, and the strengths and the topics they work on are usually based on their skill sets, their interests, and their expertise. And so I think having a variety of skill sets, interests will help make a board stronger for the county. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
So, top 10 commissioners? I don't think that. No, I would like to, I'm my own favorite commissioner, but if I could take a little bit from all of them, I really respected Claire for her compassion. Terry Thompson, I like the way that he advocated for natural resources. I think natural resources are a very important part of Lincoln County. Don Lindley was a great representative for the county. He did a lot of things in Salem, worked with AOC. Make sure that you raise the profile of Lincoln County. Make sure that what you're doing, that you're going out there and you're representing the county well and what the best parts of the county are. Jean Cowan, I really liked her. She was very collaborative. I liked her fire. She put me on a panel that actually I was working with Cristen. It was a panel of 16, and it was a 15-1 vote. I was the sole no vote. And she called me on the carpet. She said, "What were you thinking?" And she said, "Everybody else agreed." And I said, Jean, I said, for the people I was representing, it was just a little bit too much. And I did not want to be seen as compliant. And I was there to represent a part of the community that was going to have great effects to it. And I voted no, and I told her why. And she said, "Okay, I can see that. And, thank you for speaking your mind and doing that. But, you really wished you would have voted yes." And I said, "But I respect you for doing it." Katie, I like the way that her energy she brought to the table. The amount of money she brought to the county, I think is great. And then mainly just make sure that the commissioners represent what is best in Lincoln County, and that you do your best to make sure that you bring the best of Lincoln County forth as a commissioner.
Thank you. So just one last question, and it's actually mine, and it's more of a philosophical question. It's how does your progressive values influence both your role as the roles you perform as a commissioner, your work as a commissioner, and your ideas about public service in general? So do your beliefs and progressive values inform that, and how so?
I don't know if they consciously does. I think so. I mean, again, I tend to focus on people, solutions, and outcomes. And I think maybe the people side comes from, which is why I tend to lean towards more progressive politics. But I have served as a civil servant, which is a nonpartisan role in government, right? So I was the government employee facilitating the process where Walter made the no vote and the 15 other people, and I was the person in the middle. And we can still work together. Yeah. So, and especially local government, it's really about the local issues that matter to community people. So that's an interesting question. I think probably maybe unconsciously it's like the issues that maybe I've chosen to work on in public service, natural resources, the human side of natural resources, some of the housing, childcare issues maybe is influenced by that. But I love serving people and helping solve problems. That's why I dedicated my career to civil service, and that's why I'm interested in serving Lincoln County.
Thank you.
I never thought about that. Never thought about that way, but I guess if you would call making sure that everyone is seen as equal, and that I, as a person up here, can represent everybody and is thoughtful in doing that manner. If that's progressive, I think that's great, and that's how I view myself. I've been a volunteer for almost all my life, whether it's working with wildlife habitat as an elected official. Everybody thinks that being port commissioner was a great job, but it's all volunteer. Your mayors, your city council members, your school district people, those are all volunteers, and I think that's needs to be realized. I don't think we should forget our history, what got us here, and then also that what things went wrong in the past. So make sure that we're not doomed to repeat it. My family, my wife works for the federal government, so I think we're all public servant. She's a public servant, and when I was an elected official, I was a public servant. My son's in the military. Works for the Coast Guard. He thought it would be great to give back to his community, and my daughter's a paramedic. So I think family and public service. But I think that what you just need to realize is it progressive to think that you should be working for everybody and making sure we have a great place to live in. So I think that would be my idea of progressive. So
thank you. So that's all we have. I want to thank you both for giving really, really thoughtful answers to the questions. And really just proud to have two really good, great candidates for these roles. And thank you all for participating in the process.
Yeah, I heard you mention that the BOC meetings might be going virtual only for a little while. I wasn't able to watch that, but what happened at that last commission meeting?
There's a lot of unrest from the audience, but then a person approached came right up and got in my face, and was yelling at me.
And approached the dais.
Yeah.
There's protocols and decorum that you can't be doing that. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah. And I have been approached by people in departments, and they have to come do their business in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say.
Right. So, and it wasn't a department head that approached, it was a member of the audience.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, I don't mind getting flipped off once in a while. That's
People are going to have feelings about the things
Yeah.
you do, and
Yeah.
I totally get that. But you know, there's lines that need to be respected.
Well, and there was someone said the best thing you could say to this is address the issue, not the person.
What was the issue that got them so riled up, if I can ask?
It was he was upset about public comment that a few of the legal advice would be getting.
Understood. About the appointment process?
No, just about in general.
In general, okay.
Yeah.
Guess watch the video, huh?
Yeah. No, and that he was. Yeah, there were some other things. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, sorry that happened to you.
It's okay.
You know, I understand frustration about restricting public comment. Actually, over in Newport, since they banned the fireworks, they have actually formed a new subcommittee that it appears their purpose is to make it more difficult and restrict public comment mildly, but it is still. I've actually really appreciated the way they do public comment, where the mayor asks if there's anyone else that would like to speak. And apparently they're going to be trying to take that away. So I understand frustrations about limiting public comment, but on the other side of that, there needs to be a community,
Happy medium.
community responsibility to be at those and be a responsible adult. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Oh, no problem, AJ.
Yeah. See you on the next one.
Yep.
You know, you are actually up as a commissioner candidate as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, I'm a candidate for it. I wasn't an applicant for the position, but yeah, I'm running against Commissioner Chuck for position 3.
Okay.
Curtis Landers.
Here's AJ.
Hi, AJ. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice
Glad
to
you're
meet you.
doing all this. I've been watching your videos lately, and
Appreciate
they're really
that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring up the level of production to help engage my audience better and help make my points more clear.
Yeah.
So I guess as commissioner candidate, you mind if I ask you a couple
Sure, go ahead.
questions? You know, one of the reoccurring big feeling questions is, what is your opinion on an ICE facility here in the county?
Yeah. Now, I don't agree with the nice facility here. I don't think we should have it here.
Okay.
I very much what the two candidates up there said is right down the line. You know, the federal government was not transparent to all the local leaders or the community about the impacts, and so then you start feeling, what are those impacts going to be? And it doesn't look like it's going to be very good for our community and public safety. I was a sheriff for 8 years in the sheriff's office, 37. Public safety is huge, should be a huge concern for the commissioners too. And, something like that will just absolutely impact it, because it's going to cause us divisiveness in the community. We're not sure what they're going to do. But yeah, there's other reasons too. The septic system. We were going to initially put the animal shelter there. Right back when there was some talk, and I know that the sewer and septic issues were number one, and that was for animal shelter, not for any people. You put a lot of people housed there. And you're really treating it so
not even working, but housed there. They got to be there full time. Yeah.
Right. And then when it jeopardizes the Coast Guard helicopter, again, public safety issue. You can't even.
I'm sure you know more than one person that goes out on those boats.
Yeah, so we've called them a number of times to meet them, and they're very valuable and important for our community. So
yeah, and not just our fishermen, but our tourists as well, which is a large part of our economy.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So for all those reasons, absolutely not. It shouldn't be here in our community.
Okay. Let's see.
There's a place for it, but it's not here. Probably. They got to get a job done. I understand. It's kind of interesting. We have a rental home down in Arizona, in Surprise, Arizona. And the two places I live, because they were going to put one down there also, and a large one. And I'm like, why is it the two places we have a house in they're thinking about doing? I was telling my wife, and very much against it down there for very similar reasons here, because what are their impacts in the community? What's it going to do? And so, I think they're really going about it the wrong way. If this is what really they need to do to accomplish their mission, they're not being, what is their mission? You know, what are the impacts? What are these detention facilities really going to accomplish and do? And again, that's why
Well,
a lot of people are against them.
my big question is, you know, if they complete their mission and get everyone they want out, what are they going to do with them afterwards?
Exactly. I don't know. Again, I'm not privy to what the federal government is thinking here, what their long-range plans, but just things like, okay, well, let's put one here. And, you know, if you have those kind of reactions, that's not good for anyone. Why not look at, okay, you know, and the question came up, and I don't know if any of the candidates actually answered it, you know, about our undocumented population here in Lincoln County, which as a sheriff, you know, I had a lot of interaction with. Some of them came through our jail, and some of them we interacted with patrol. You know, how can we do that? Why don't we try to see what is causing them from not being documented, not being legal here? Why don't we set up a, you know, can you imagine if the federal government came in and said, hey, we want a facility here that's going to help the undocumented population become legal here?
Right.
Because they're already, a lot of them are productive, you know, they have jobs here, they have families here, they're going
You
to
can't be
schools
lazy
here.
to cross multiple countries.
Absolutely.
And
So let's help them be legal. You know?
Right,
And why is that so hard to do? And obviously there's some here that have come here to cause harm, that have committed very serious crimes, brought drugs here. Okay, so those.
you can't ignore the whole picture.
Correct. But there are a lot of people here that are very, very, you know, good for the community, and we want to try to keep them here.
So it would be safe to assume that your opinion is the amount of people that come here legally to cause harm is actually a very small number of people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but they're also, you know, it's just like it's a small number of people even in general that come to jail. But unfortunately, it's, you know, because what the jail is, you know, 130 people in it. I mean, that's a very small amount of the population in Lincoln County, and we have a lot of people from that aren't even Lincoln County visitors here. So, but yet they create a lot of work for the number of people that, you know, the law enforcement and public safety that are here. People that commit crimes create a lot of work, the criminal justice system, the judges. You can see how much they're so. I've always been in favor of what caused them to create the crime, and can we reduce those barriers so they don't commit the crime again. I didn't like the revolving door that was
To prevent recidification.
Absolutely. That's why deflection programs and pretrial programs, all those things that I'm very much in favor for, were working.
It's interesting you bring up the deflection and diversion program because, you know, I've seen a letter going around from the juvenile program leader to the district attorney questioning why she is sending people instead of to juveniles instead of to the juvenile program and sending them straight to the adult court system.
Yeah. I saw that letter too. Again, I retired a year and 2 months ago.
Right.
So
You're not actually in there anymore, but I feel you'd have a good perspective on it.
Yeah, because that's, you know, I know that before I left, we were working with the juvenile department. One of the things I did before, quite a while before this, is really trying to, because again, juveniles don't belong in custody if they don't need to be there.
Right.
We need to determine, you know, and I remember working with the school district to come up with, because they had like law enforcement had a no tolerance policy if somebody was juvenile was with alcohol.
Okay.
It was automatic citation. Long history of why that was in effect.
Okay.
I find
citation, but you didn't take them to.
Yeah, but
you called the parents and had them come get picked up.
Yeah, but still, those citations were causing really downstream effects on a lot of kids. It should have been a learning moment for that child or that teen to try to improve what they did, learn from their mistakes.
Have a chance to get it off their record later.
Automatically go into the consequences. The school district, we found out, was taking them out of sports programs and other extracurricular activities.
There goes scholarships.
Scholarships are just these are good things for kids. So now you take them out, now what are they going to do? They're just going to go back to what they were doing that got them.
Now they have even more time.
So we work to say we can drop that no tolerance policy, work with the schools. Let's don't give them one strike, they're out and they're not going to be, you know, into these programs. Let's work, but all that center ground working with the juvenile department to try to have these diversion type systems. I remember clear back when they had teen court. It was really good because you had peers up there. Somebody came in front of them judging and they gave them consequences. But again, it wasn't, you know, because the other thing that happens is they lose their ability to get their driver's license till they're 18. You know, all these things.
I didn't realize that was a consequence as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that from one citation that law enforcement was doing. So we really worked on doing that. So I'm just going to give you the background, some things. You know, obviously we're talking criminal behavior here, but still, when you're talking juveniles, And there's some crimes that automatically they're referred as an adult, so I understand that, but the majority of them are not that way.
Right,
So
right.
really you need to look at, and I think what's missing between, because I've talked to both the juvenile director, Tony Campa, and I've also talked to the DA, Jenna Wallace, about this thing. Both of them seem like they're like-minded on as far as diversions and deflection and those type of things. There's a lack of cooperation, I think, is what's going on. That's my true opinion on it.
Okay.
It's just a cooperation issue, not that we're not like-minded in what we think about the issue.
So
And
I
I'm
guess
speaking for them.
Right. You can't speak for them, and
Yeah.
we are just kind of speculating here. And along with that, I was speaking with Mr. Chuck earlier, and you guys can't direct department heads or anything like that. But what could you or would you do to facilitate that
Yeah, you gotta
communication
get
so
that.
that juveniles quit ending up in adult court
Yeah.
unnecessarily?
You got to bring that cooperation back, and it's not just that matter. You've probably seen that in your works going around here and documentation of things. It's not just that, and that's one of the things that we've got to restore that cooperation back so that we can talk things out. And collaborating on these issues is number one. And so maybe you get on an issue like you're talking about with that. Maybe there's something that doesn't work for the DA. Maybe there's something that doesn't work for juvenile. How can we make it work? It's a give and take, isn't it?
It's collaboration.
Collaboration, yeah, absolutely.
Consensus.
And that doesn't mean, the legislators do it all the time, and I did it, especially when I became an elected official as sheriff. You had to do that. You can't just my way or the highway, or
Right.
you're never gonna get anything done. You gotta actually collaborate with people and make things work. And it does take a give and take collaboration approach to it.
All right. Well, thank you for your answers
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah,
guess
we
we're
need to
kind of supposed to get out of here. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'll see you around. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.